never start recording it. And I will take this off. A little name badge. Okay. Alright. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and read a little bit of these notes for you, and feel free to leave any comments in. Let me know what you guys think of the balance patch, so that way we can have a dialogue about it. Otherwise, let's see. So Living World, which is part of the PvE portion of the game, fix an issue that may have prevented your high bluffs. Griffin Master, Silvers. Okay, fix an issue that prevented player from re-entering and replaying Dragonstorm. Okay, so this is all just basic Living World issues, as I said, skills and balances. Alright, I want to see what they think or what their mindset is behind all these changes. It's been a long while since our last major balance patch. In this update, we are preparing for Cantha by cleaning up long-standing frustrations with Boons and Conditions, as well as positioning existing builds as new potential sources of alacrity and quickness in group play. So it seems like this specific sentence is being addressed to raids and PvE portions of the game, because everyone who does raiding, even semi-competitively or semi-hardcore, runs some form of alacrity or another and quickness in order to maximize the DPS and minimize the amount of cooldown time, so that way rotations can be faster. Among these changes, the new duration caps for each boon and condition, a rework of the retaliation and resistance boons, and a reversal of the bonus damage state of torment condition. Torment will now deal bonus damage to targets that are in a standing still, that are standing still instead of moving. This change will enhance torment's performance in most boss encounters. Okay, so they did change it in PvE. Alright, or PvP. So RIP. I mean, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I did like that torment. You see, I'm kind of torn a little bit here, because there were times when I hated, you know what, no, let me take it back, and I'm not going. Torment and Confusion, I used to complain a lot that whenever you had Torment and Confusion, you couldn't do anything, you were just a statue. So it really used to upset me when both of those conditions were applied on me at the same time. Nowadays, it seems like, as they said, they're trying to create better opportunities for synergy and counterplay in PvP. So getting somebody locked down, CCing them, applying Torment, it does seem like on paper a good change. At least for me personally, like, I'm not going to be unbiased here. I'm going to say I do appreciate this. But I think the mindset behind what they're thinking out here is that people actually synergize. And that only happens in one time out of the month, where people synergize in the monthly automated tournament. So in ranked games and stuff, Torment's pretty much a dead condi. Retaliation boon has been a long pain point in PvE and PvP. It's not particularly impactful to use and never fun to play against. We've replaced it with a new boon called Resolution, which complements the existing protection boon by reducing incoming damage from conditions, bleeding, poison, burning, torment, confusion by 33%. Many current traits and skills use retaliation in some way to add effect. Those traits aren't going away. Generally, they've been updated to use the new resolution boon. As always, the detailed patch notes below will tell you exactly what's happening for each profession. Similarly, we are not quite happy with how resistance is a hard shutdown on all conditions, which creates overlapping gameplay with skills that cleanse conditions. We are updating resistance to only affect non-damaging conditions. In other words, resolution helps reduce damage from bleeding, poison, burning, and torment confusion, while resistance lets you temporarily ignore blind, shield, cripple, fear, immob, slow, taunt, vulnerability, and weakness. Since we are reducing the overall effect of resistance, we are also reevaluating and increasing durations. So this one is weird to me as well, because in some cases, resistance is the only way for a class to survive getting heavily condi bombed. They don't really have a lot of cleanses. This would be a fine change if some of the classes, such as Revenant, Engineer, right now it feels, Ranger, and PvP specifically, and PvE, whatever, but it seems like this is talking specifically about PvP. If those classes had more access to cleanses, such as like similar to like what a Guardian has, then yeah, it's fine. But I feel like a lot of the classes are going to suffer in one way, shape, or form because although it did shut down conditions, it kept them alive and kept the fight pretty even. So now we're probably going to see a lot of conditions being utilized. And as I said, Necro is probably in a good spot right now due to the fact that it can heavily Condi bomb somebody and they're not able to cleanse it fast enough. So yeah, it is an indirect Condi buff in my opinion right now. As you know, this whole protection or retaliation boon that got changed to whatever its name is, resolution, is great, but 33% reduction isn't necessarily going to make those classes survive, especially when they don't have access to it right now. As we mentioned, all these, right, duration caps, all right, so duration stacking boons and conditions now behave consistently. They directly stack, added from all sources, not have hidden stack limits. Generally have shorter max durations with most non-damaging conditions. All right, so this boons and conditions, but the crazy part is these conditions that are affected are the non-damaging ones. So poison, for example, poison, which is a condition that I genuinely hate with a passion, is not affected by this whatsoever. And poison and chill are probably my two least favorite conditions. Everyone hates burning because burning is intense and it does a lot of damage. But the one thing I can say with those two is that it really, really hinders how you're able to heal and survive. So I think they are overtuned by themselves. Maybe on an off-topic conversation, we could talk about reducing the amount of healing debuff and the amount of, internal cooldown debuff that those two conditions give. Maybe it would put us in a better spot overall. That is a different conversation. We already acknowledged the mantras before. We know what's to come with those. So let's see, general, to better indicate which skills will deal defiance damage. Icons within tool skill tips that represent applied control effects are now purple. We've noticed that the exposed effect that is placed on many bosses when the defiance is broken has been adjusted. Okay, so they're making a quality of life changes for newer players to get into the game and have the visuals in order to have it's pretty much lowering the skill ceiling so that newer players coming in are more aware of the defiance bar so they can break it, etc., etc. Items, superior sigil of stars now increases concentration and expertise. That's pretty good. These are two good stats that I think really benefit for raids and PvE. Celestial stat combination on gear now increases concentration and expertise. So as I mentioned, the celestial stat in PvP, which people wanted the amulet removed, is now getting buffed. Guardian Swoop now deals additional damage based on your velocity, which is kind of interesting. I mean, real world physics are becoming applicable in Guild Wars 2. I love it. All right, Elementalists, let us see your mindset behind this. We feel that Elementalist has been in a very good place since July 2020. Both Tempest and Weavers have high effective damage and power and condition builds available, while Tempest is also a powerful support. We weren't completely happy that the top end power and condition damage Elementalist build have approximately the same sustained damage. So we're making some minor targeted reductions in the power builds and increased to condition damage sources to help Condi builds really shine on bosses. Okay. So this is a raid. This is impacting raids specifically in fractals. Flame Strike. So everything that it looks like, right? Flame Strike, Wildfire, Burning, Lightning Orb, Elementalist Rage is on par with what they're saying. They are focusing on improving condition a little bit though. It is little changes. I don't think it'll make too much of a difference personally right now. I think maybe one more patch would do it with a little bit more extreme changes, or just wait till Cantha. Then Engineer, while Scrapper can be played as an effective healer, it hasn't had access to the offensive boons it needs to truly be valuable as a support role in group PvE content. Very true. As a result, we've seen Scrapper get very little play outside of World versus World. Not true. Well, maybe with statistics, but I mean, PvP, you can see a lot of Scrappers around. I mean, I personally see Scrappers, but then again, the sample size is like 10% of the players that I'm generally against in my elo, so I don't really know the difference in gold, silver, whatnot, and who is not playing Scrapper. With this update, we are working the Scrapper trait kinetic stabilizers so that Scrapper can apply quickness boon up to 5 targets. So they're making it more of a support role, and here we're also taking some potential damage out of the Hollowsmith's heat management and Laser's edge, and instead we're adding more power to the core explosives trait. Glass cannon make okay, so I do like this change personally. I like that they are taking away from these specializations and putting more of the added effects into the core traits, because personally I believe that if you really want a truly balanced game across all specializations, even as they start to include more specializations, the one thing is that you need is you're going to have really really strong core traits. So this is a great change for me. The rifle overhead shot, the skill no longer knocks back the engineer back. Really weird. I don't know if this was necessary. I mean, I guess it's kind of cool, but I don't think it's going to make a difference, to be honest with you guys. I mean, correct. Any engineers out there can tell me it's going to make a difference or not, but me as playing an engineer, I just don't see it being that impactful. So maybe it's one of those changes where, okay, that's great. I guess. Glass cannon is a nice one. It changes the strike bonus from 7 to 10%. And then here we go, the kinetic stabilizer. So everything kinetic accelerators right here on the Hollowsmith, it looks like once again, or a Scrapper, they are changing it to be a little bit more of a support class, support role. So that way people want to bring Scrappers into PvE content in order to get that applied quickness. Hollowsmith getting that reduction of Laser's edge, PvE only. This matches the current value in PvP. So nothing changed in PvP. That's fine. But PvE, they are reducing it. Okay, that's fine too. Alrighty. So Guardian. Guardians have always been very flexible and a powerful profession. While we are happy with the current build diversity, yep, because Guardians, as we know, have like the most builds possible in the world. Guardians are viable in every game mode. Working to extend the same diversity to other professions, we've observed that all Guardian builds, both Condi and Power. Oh, Crew, thanks for the follow, man. Use the same combination of Zeal and Radiant specializations. There we go. As they have optimal traits. Oh, once again. We are making a few changes to Zeal, Virtues, and underperforming Consecration utilities to better differentiate the two specializations and allow Virtues to be viable for condition damage builds. Alright, so once again, using that same mindset and that same logic of really focusing on strengthening the core trait lines and making sure that not one or two are kind of overshadowing the others. Scepter, symbol of punishment, increases cooldown from 6 to 10 seconds PvE. Alright, so 8 to 10 seconds in WoW World. So Scepter is getting a huge nerf here for raids and fractals. But then again, I don't think so either. When you look at it, symbol of punishment was kind of overlapped anyways. So I think this kind of makes it more where you don't have that overlap. So it's not really a nerf. It's more or less just a change to make sure that it doesn't overlap. I don't know why. Staff, symbol of swiftness, decreases cooldown from 15 to 12 seconds in PvE only. Very interesting change there. Unless they want to see more staff builds and raids and fractals with Guardian. But I guess that works. So that way they can do damage. Symbol of Wrath, the skill has been renamed to Resolution. Oh, obviously we need to change it because there's no more retaliation. And reduce cooldown from 20 to 12 seconds on Greatsword. Very interesting. Damage per strike reduced by 10%, guys. So now Greatsword's getting nerfed on Guardian. That is very unfortunate in my opinion. But this really, so the thing is, it doesn't really say if it's just getting nerfed in PvE or all three game modes. Kind of sucks though. I do like Guardian's Greatsword. And we really don't see many Guardians in PvP using Greatsword because it's just not as effective as a weapon right now. The Consecrations was a reflection, reduced base duration from 10 to 8 seconds, cooldown from 30 to 25. Okay, Purging Flame. So they didn't really change anything other than the cooldown there. Purging Flame reducing radius. from 240 to 180. I do like the radius changes. I wish I would see more radius changes on all skills that have a radius of 240 to reduce it so that way in PvP we get a little bit more healthy gameplay where an entire radius of an attack or an ability doesn't cover the entire node and forcing everyone to just take damage there if they don't want to lose it. The skill no longer burns foes that cross outside of the field. Instead now applies 1 stack of burning with a 4-second duration. Okay. So that to me sounds like a world versus world, you know, change. Why they wanted to change that. Sanctuary reduced cooldown from 60 to 50 seconds. Alright, that's kind of cool. Really, it just lowers the cooldown, doesn't change anything else. Save yourself, increase duration of resistance from... So, double the resistance time from save yourself. Healer's Retribution, this trait has been named to Resolution. Virtues, trait now additionally increases strike damage for each boon on the Guardian. The effect was formerly the power of Virtuous. So the more you attack, the more damage you do. Absolute Resolution, it's been changed name. Guardians now gain condition damage based on vitality, 10%. But then again, Guardians don't really have a lot of HP anyway, so it's kind of lackluster. They have to really trait into vitality in order to gain any sort of benefit from this. Virtues gain reduced recharge by 15%. Alright, Zealous Flame. Trait has been renamed to Resolution, got it. Symbol of Wrath, got it. Symbolic Power. Strikes no longer change the virtue skill 1 passive effect more quickly. Eternal Armory, Spirit Weapons, things that are heavily underused on Guardians because they aren't really the best. Let's see, applies burning on the first strike. Okay, so we could probably see more burn Guardians with this in PvP because the Sword of Justice. Oh, this is a reduction. Okay, yeah, true. No, we won't. I lied. This is a reduction to the total burning from Sword of Justice and increase in total burning from Hammer, Wisdom, and Shield. Got it. So yeah, so the first strike applies burn in 2 seconds to 4 seconds. Got it. Alright, well, it's not a bad change. Firebrand Mantra is no longer... This is kind of the big one here that people are getting upset about, right? Stoic Demeanor, fix a bug that caused a 3-second interval rather than the correct 1-second interval. That's a good change. Glad that bug's no longer around. The Mantra Cast Chime charge. Now they hold 3 charges by default and final charge is no longer stronger. Really nerfing, passively nerfing Firebrand, which for me, I did like Firebrand a lot. I still do like Firebrand, but this just makes me no longer want to play the class because the mantras themselves are already weak, especially the healing mantra. It's so weak that it's not even worth using. They did nerf it quite heavily, but the problem with making these changes now is that not only was it nerfed on one end where it decreases the amount of healing that it gives you per charge, but they made the final charge really weak, so now you don't even get that healing. Not even worth using. No point even running Firebrand right now in my opinion, unless it's in PvE. Maybe World War, but I still think Core Guardian might be stronger in World versus World. Dragon Hunter, this trait now uses correct icon. Alright, so the cooldown is the same. Pure of Sight. Trait now uses the correct icon. Okay, so they didn't really change much there, but Longbow might have been changed. Let's see. Remove the bouncing aspect of this skill of Puncture Shot. Skill now pierces enemies and inflicts crippled. That's kind of a nerf. I did like Puncture Shot a lot. I did like that no matter where the enemy was sitting, it was hitting all of them. Symbol of Energy, cooldown reduced from 15 to 12 seconds. Casting time reduced. That's nice change there because that is the force skill on Longbow, and it took a lot of time, but it's a very good symbol to stand on because it does give you vigor. Hunter's Ward, the skill cast now has been reworked. Dragon Hunter now channel this skill for 1 second and then release the barrage, allowing movement. Oh wow, that's cool. Oh, that's a good change. So I like this. So pretty much the 5 skill where you're shooting the arrows up, you just charge it. Did they change that? I wonder if they changed that to Ranger. But that allows you to move. That's a huge buff there to Longbow. Alright, Chronomancer. We're going to be talking about Mesmer. Chronomancer has been steeply overperforming in a damage roll in all content, leading to an environment in which the best way to tackle almost any challenge is to throw more Chronomancers at it. This is true. I did do a video recently on if Chronomancer was viable in PvE, and it showed that the meta was literally run 7 Chronomancers. So I can attest. On the other hand, Mirage hasn't been performing at that level we'd like to see it. It's been relegated to a damage role in only specific boss encounters in which Confusion is particularly potent. With this update, Mirage will see a general improvement performance from the changes to Torment Condition, with the option of using a reworked Chaos specialization that will now better synergize for condition damage and support builds. We are also creating a new possible boon support role for Mirage by using the staff by changing Chaos Vortex to grant might and alacrity to up to 10 ally targets. So this is kind of interesting as well. I like where they're going with it. I know it's ripped to Chronomancers in PvE, but in order to have healthy gameplay, you do need that diversity of players because not everyone wants to play a Chronomancer. The Deception skill is now ground targeted, while on land it no longer displaces the player when summoning a clone while underwater. Okay, so Deception. Oh, very interesting. Ground targeted. So it's kind of like Thief. Oh my god. What's up, Sneb? Thank you very much for that raid. I appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I'm just reading some of the patch notes, halfway done. We're on a Mirage right now. But I was hoping to see if, you know, as I go through, let me know what changes you're looking to do. Let's see, I was on Deception. Hope you have an excellent stream. Thanks, man. Wonder what you are doing. Alright. Skill now requires a target to activate Arcane Thievery. Makes sense. Time Warp. Reduced cooldown from 180s to 120 seconds. Reduced duration from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. The skill now applies 1 second quickness and slow per pulse, for a total of 6 pulses over a 5-second duration. It's a very interesting change on Time Warp. I don't know if it's going to make it more useful in PvE. Well, maybe PvE. I mean PvP. But I understand what they're doing, removing Time Warp, so that way people aren't so dependent on it when they're playing Mesmer, and bring in other classes to compensate for that quickness. Mantras, as we talked about mantras there. Mind Rack, fix a bug that could cause damage dealt to be inconsistent if another Shatter skill was used immediately after this skill, and then split second. Alright, so they're making it a little bit more reliable for your damage to be applied whenever you're using these skills here, your Mesmer Shatter skills, because sometimes, as you guys know, and I fat finger all the time, you could fat finger trying to get a Mind Rack off, end up getting the F2 and missing out on a lot of your damage, which really sucks. You don't want that to happen. Yeah, everyone can cast Time Warp in continuous split now though, since there are no more stat caps on boons. Yeah, very true. They could do that. Sword, Illusionary Repose. The skill no longer displaces the player when summoning a clone. Okay, no longer. So that's kind of a I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. I mean, it sounds good on paper, right? It sounds like, okay, you're no longer displaced when summoning a clone, but some people do like that movement, I guess. Alright, staff. When the Chaos increase projectile speed by 25%. Oh, that's very nice. Boon there. Increase casting speed by 0.1 second. Going after cast animation lock. Okay, so Winds of Chaos is going to be getting a nice buff here. Fix an inconsistency with projectile behavior after bouncing. Skill now applies Torment for 5 seconds. The first target struck, and then Confusion 5 on the subsequent to hit enemies. Allies hit gain might for 5 seconds. Okay, nice. So they're really making that staff a support weapon as well as a damage weapon there. I do appreciate that. Chaos Armor reduces recharge by 25% or 25 seconds. Skill no longer applies a random condition to nearby foes when cast. Instead applies blindness and confusion. Alright, I really hate blindness a lot. I would have much rather taken the random condition, to be honest with you, instead of blindness and confusion. I hate blindness so much. Chaos Storm reduced recharge to 25 seconds PvP only. Seems like that is going to, I mean, reduction in cooldown always just makes it, you know, where you can use the skill more often in the same amount of time. Let's see. Chaos Vortex Staff Ambush. The projectile now only strikes enemies. Up to 10 allies gain boons. The boons granted are now Might, 8 stacks. PvE 4 stack. Okay, so this is a PvE and PvP change. Very nice. And Alacrity for 3 seconds. So maybe you might see for PvP more teamfight Mirages that are there to not only damage enemies with one skill, but also give boons. So I do like that change. That's pretty cool. Chronomancer, Danger Time. Remove the critical damage bonus. That sucks. Chrono Phantasma. Summon Phantasms. Damage is now, oh my god, 75% PvE only. Seize the moment. Quickness duration per clone shattered has been reduced from 1.5 seconds to 1 second. I mean, yeah, it just really seems like they don't want an overhaul of quickness. We'll see how it goes. I wonder how the Raiders are going to take this. I mean, if any of you guys have tested and let me know if they're really significant changes or if you just really don't notice anything at all and you're still going to run 7 Chronomancers. Illusionary Membrane. This trait has now been reworked. While regenerating condition damage dealt is increased and condition damage taken reduced by 10%. Okay, so Chaos trait line being changed here. Like I said, I do like the reworks of the core traits, and I want them all for all classes to be really, really strong so that all professions and specializations have the potential to be played in any game mode. Trait's been reworked, gain concentration, expertise. Okay, so everything's been reworked, obviously through names and giving you condition damage on that Chaos line, also helping you reduce your staff skills. And Chaos Armor grants 3 seconds protection, regeneration for 5 seconds with some cooldowns. Necromancers, let's see. Is not currently in need for any major change, right? I agree, but along general improvements to the performance of condition damage specializations, we're improving Necro's access to condition and curses. With improved Condi application, we're also making improvements in Soul Reaping and Soul Barbs to increase Condi damage. We're also making small changes to the usability of several traits in Blood Magic. Alright, so Gassy Claws, it requires a skill now to activate, so you can't just randomly use it, which kind of sucks. I do like using the animation, whatever. It happens. Deathly Claws, the skill no longer fires projectiles at enemies located behind the player in Lich form. That also sucks because I do use that as well in PvP. But I can understand why they want to nerf those, just make things more fair across the board. Lich form already hits like a ton, like a truck anyway, so you don't really need it to be doing that much crazy. This barbed precision increases increased duration of bleeding, inflicted from 2 seconds to 3 seconds PvE only. City disruption, increased duration of torment from 3 to 5 seconds. Okay, so torment getting an increase. Blood magic mark of evasion no longer has an internal cooldown. Really interesting to see that. Blood bond reducing internal cooldown from 20 to 16 seconds. So blood magic is getting a buff here. And blood bank, in addition to previous effects, trait now grants Breviers 4 health gained while being below full health. Okay, this is dumb, dude. This is why you're probably going to see more Necros in Guild Wars 2 PvP and PvE because of this blood bank here. Soul Barbs and Soul Reaping now increases all damage dealt, not only striking damage. Okay, Necro is just getting love all, left and right here. Infusing Terror can now be used in mid-air. Oh my god. Yeah. I just want to play Necromancer now. From now on, I'm just going to probably play Necro. They're just getting completely all the love. Even though Areen said it's not really, they're in a good spot, they're not really in need of major changes. To me, these changes alone, mixed in with all the nerfs and everything else from all the other classes, is putting them on S tier right now. Ranger, okay. Damage dealer, we've seen that from Soul Beast, has extreme burst potential. Yep, but it's but unfortunately in this case, this has helped create some very homogeneous group compositions. In this patch, we're weakening Sikkim when used by Soul Beast by lowering the damage bonus to 25%, matching the current balancing for this skill in both PvE and World v World. We're also increasing the cooldown of 1 wolf pack. However, while we do want slightly lower the extreme burst damage of Soul Beast, we don't want to significantly lower its overall damage per second in longer encounters. So this is very PvE based. let's see, Sikkim. When used by a merged soul beast, the damage bonus granted is 25%. When used by any other ranger specialization, it's 40%. So that's, like I said, it's matching it with PvE and World v World. PvP, I mean. One man wolf pack getting that fat internal or an cooldown increase, and furious strength is getting bonus damage increase though to compensate. Call the Wild. Reduce animation cast time by 0.5 per second. The pet's next few attacks are no longer unblockable. The skill now dazes, weakens enemies. Alright, so the daze is 2 seconds in PvE and World v World, and then PvP in 1 second. Now, Renegade condition builds will be positively impacted. That's nice to see. We're finding that they maintain and even improve their already strong performance, preemptively making slight decreases to the duration of applied torment from several skills, as condition Renegade builds were already one of the most potent condition damage builds. We like to see improve other possible variations of favorite invocation builds, such as rely on specific traits in both Retribution and Devastation to increase all damage dealt instead of strike damage only. Along these changes, we are updating Retribution specialization to match the removal of the Retaliation boon. We are improving the strike. Yeah, I forgot too that this is going to affect Renegades too. Revenants did rely on Retaliation a little bit, especially Renegades, so this resolution is going to make them survive a little bit longer, but reduce some of their damage. We improved the strike damage of Renegade's Call of Favor by changing it from ferocity bonus to the bonus of all damage dealt. The change will allow Renegade power builds to be more viable in general play and open world and mission contexts, although it's unlikely to create Renegade power builds for high-end PvE content. Rip. Oh, they're kind of giving up already before it started. Soul Cleave Summit was a high skill we have been watching. Its ability to grant uncapped healing power per second, limited by how many times someone can hit while under the effect, resulted in unintuitive gameplay. When Soul Cleave Summit was active, players were incentivized to use skills that could hit at the highest number of times. This unpredictable rate of healing is not something that can be balanced. Well, you should have thought of that when you freaking created the profession. As a result, it created situations where it would allow groups to ignore the intended fight mechanics. We're now limiting Soul Cleave Summit to trigger once per second to allow players similar to Razor Claw's Rage. So this is a huge nerf to the PvE or PvP variant of Renegade using spirits. Very unfortunate. Spirit Reckoning, this trait has now been renamed to Resolution. Increased duration of granted boons from 3 to 6 seconds in PvE only. Damage reduction is now gained while the Revenant has Resolution rather than Vigor. Retaliation Evasion, this trait has now been renamed to Resolute. And then Vicious Reprisal, this trait, okay, increases all damage dealt rather than strike damage only. So improves on condition classes as well as power. Invocation, this trait now increases damage dealt from life stealing. Very nice, because that's going to make a little bit more survivable Renegades in World versus World, as well as PvP. We might see more side-noting Revenant builds, or just more Revenants solo roaming by themselves. Then Corruption, increased resistance duration from 3 to 5 seconds in PvE only. Don't know how that's going to change much realistically for PvE. I don't know many times when condition's really effective in PvE. Devastation, Destructive Impulses trait now increases all damage dealt rather than strike damage. So they're really focusing on making sure that these trait lines also impact condition builds rather than just power builds. We already talked about the Soul Cleave Summit, and then Call of Favor as well. Oh, they actually got some weapon enhancements too. Mace, reduced torment duration from 8 to 7 seconds in PvE. Axe, reduced torment from 12 to 10 seconds in PvE. And Demon Stance, Embrace the Darkness, which is the elite there, reducing torment duration from 6 to 5 seconds or 5.5 seconds in pain absorption, getting that increase as well. Thief, on the other hand, had some of the least build diversity in PvE. That is Fax. It's overdue for some improvement. Super Fax. While we are happy with the power damage rules available for Thief players, meaning they're happy with the fact that you can literally just spam 1 with the dagger, we would like to bring back Thief condition builds as another option. In this update, we are improving the conditions applied by daggers and short bows, and we are adding more condition related power to trickery specialization by giving a source of expertise and multiplier to bleeding damage. Also reducing the maximum amount of targets and stolen skills detonate plasma, which affect Thief, Boon build compositions, and a few specific raid encounters. Now that we've added sources of quickness to the Scrapper specialization, we believe it is appropriate time to bring the Thief Boon role in these encounters to match, providing Boon's quickness for half the squads. This will allow for less squad roll shuffling in these encounters. So Dagger, Wild Strike now inflicts 2 stacks of bleeding for 3 seconds in PvE. I don't like this in PvP. Please stop giving thieves more conditions in PvP and World v World. Just leave it to PvE, please. I don't like it. Yeah, PvE I do, not the other ones. Trick Shot reduces the animation length by 0.2 seconds on short bow. Skill no longer deals damage or deals increased strike damage to poison enemies. Instead, it applies 1 stack of bleeding, 4 seconds on poisoned enemies. Surprise Shot and Malice Surprise Shot. These skills now additionally apply 3 stacks of bleeding for 5 seconds to PvE. Oh my gosh. And 1 second in PvP and World v World. Choking Gas increases. Oh my god. Okay, so they didn't change this on PvP, thankfully. Increases poison duration from 2 to 3 seconds in both PvE and World v World. But unfortunately to you World v World guys, you're going to have to deal with what we PvPers have been dealing with. Deadly Arts. The improvisation. The cooldown of this trait has been reduced from 20 to 15 seconds. Trickery. Prepared Blindness. The trait now increases expertise by 150. Doesn't... Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll explain this in a minute why I'm sighing a little bit. People to ambush. This has been reworked to Deadly Ambush. Deadly Ambush. Stealing also applies 3 stacks of bleeding for 10 seconds in PvE. And 3 stacks for 6 seconds in PvP and World v World. Bleeding inflicted on foes deals 25% more damage. And then Blinding Shadow. The skill now reveals the caster if they're using stealth. When the skill begins on Deadeye, reduces the aftercast and animation from 0.25 to 0.08 seconds. So for me, right, what I see happening to Thief is I'm happy that Thief is getting some attention for PvE, but I really hate the fact that they have to do these changes in PvP as well, because Condi Thief in PvP has always had just a sour taste in my mouth. It is really strong, and it's not as intuitive as some other builds. Like, for example, you could literally one-shot somebody by stealing on them. Then on top of that, if you don't even land that, you can just sit back and cast any amount of conditions that you want on them. And then from there, if that's not bad enough, use Choking Gas, which is an unblockable skill that poisons down bodies so you can't res them. I personally don't think these changes for Thief are really that good for PvP and World v World, although I understand PvP. Alright, Berserker has been in a great place with strong support, power, and condition. This is probably my class right here, the Warrior. Spellbreaker lacks the damage it needs to keep up. That's very true. And the line between banner support and Condi damage builds is very blurry, showing that possible alternatives to discipline specializations were underperforming. Takes 8 years. I've been saying this for the last 8 years. With this update, we're making improvements to tactics to make it more viable, alternative to discipline, and we're improving Spellbreaker's damage capability. We're also lowering the base target cap of banners to 5 players, which, with the choice for support builds to utilize the double standards trait to raise the cap to 10. All banners are now gaining light field combos, giving all warriors specialization some access. Rifle is also receiving an improvement pass, improving its ability to combat multiple targets and giving it more utility as a ranged power weapon in general missions and open world play. So yes, I do like the last part of this, Rifle getting improvements. I like using Rifle over Longbow a lot of the times, and I felt like Rifle was just a subpar weapon overall. As a warrior, it's one of the few classes that you can really use a rifle. I mean, you have Engineer, and then you also have Deadeye, and I think that's it. So having a skill that only a handful of classes can use, and Warrior being one of them, you really want that weapon to be very, very strong and shine across some of the other weapons themselves. Rifle Fear Shot. This attack now pierces, but no longer grants bonus adrenaline against vulnerable targets. Instead, grants 1 stack of 5 seconds to Warrior when hitting a vulnerable target. So that is kind of cool. They're very, very quick shots. You can gain even more damage by stacking Might, and then having the Might on you versus having someone on vulnerability. Just constantly cleanse it. Crack Shot, instead of granting bonuses to Adrenaline with Fierce Shot, this trait now causes Fierce Shot to deal 10% more damage bonus in addition to its previous effects. I do like that trait change. Aim Shot, the skill has been removed. Okay. Volley, the skill has been moved to slot 2 on the weapon. Interesting. Explosive skills. So it was 3, I believe. Volley was 3 and now it's 2. Very interesting. Explosive Shell. This new skill takes slot 3 on rifle previously occupied by Volley. The attack shoots a large shell at the target that explodes on contact with the enemy. The explosion creates a cone-shaped blast. That I'm going to use this in a minute. So we're going to see what it looks like. Alright, banners. Reduce the number. Okay, we talked about those. Yep, no longer class bass finishers. They now create light combo fields that persist for 5 seconds after the banner is summoned. Now let's get into some of these traits. I really want to see what's going on here. Peak Performance. Reduce the additional strike damage applied for a period of time after using physical skills from 15 to 10%. And PvE only. I'm glad that was only a PvE change. Great Fortitude. This trait now increases ferocity by 10% of vitality. Okay, so we can see more crit damage there, but once again, it's not necessarily the strongest trait. I think that there's better traits instead of this 10%. It's like, yeah, it's just, I don't know if it's worth it. I don't think it's going to give you enough power coefficients for that. Defense, Coldly Weak increases damage bonus from 7 to 10% in PvE only. I don't know why you would run defense in PvE anyways. Spiked Armor has been renamed to Hardened Armor because Retaliation is gone. Tactics, Marching Orders reduces internal cooldowns to gain soldiers' focus from 15 to 10 seconds. Like Specialists, increases damage bonus from 10 to 15 in PvE only. That doesn't really make me want to choose Tactics over Discipline, to be honest with you. Roaring Reveille, whatever. Increases duration of resistance boon granted to Warhorn skills. Call of Valor from 2 seconds to 3 seconds, and Warrior Cunning reduces health threshold for bonus damage from 90 to 80%. I don't really see, like I said, this being the reason why I'm going to switch off of Discipline. None of these changes in defense or tactics really give me a need, and I'm really upset that they are just not doing more for the other traits. Like, you didn't see arms in this whatsoever. So can I really take them at their word that they're trying to fix Warrior when they're not even giving arms any love whatsoever? Increased damage bonus from 7 to 10% in PvE only for Warrior Sprint. Double Standard reduced bonus effect of banners from 100% to 50. Straight now additionally increases the maximum number of ally targets from 5 to 10%. And Axe Mastery no longer grants additional ferocity for second axe equipped. Spellbreakers, Sun and Moon style, fix a bug that could cause a trait bonus to temporarily be lost after recovering the down state. Main hand dagger bonus has been reworked to deal 10% additional strike damage to foes with no boons. Attacker's insight. Each stack of insight effect now grants an additional 50 power, precision, and ferocity in level 80. Each stack now grants additional 35 power, precision, and ferocity in PvP. Okay, so just because you're level 80, you get these? Previously, each stacked... I'd have to figure that out again. Full counter. The attack portion of the skill now correctly triggers if the Spellbreaker is in midair, allowing the skill... Okay, well, that's kind of cool. Oh, more notes. Ash of the Just affects 1 second internal cooldown. Chapter 2, so I guess things they forgot. Stoke Demeanor now also tricks and inflicts slow. Chapter 2, not really something that really affects me. But 1 second, guys. I will be right back. And then I'll go over some of these patch notes. Alright, everyone. Sorry about that. So here's my overall thoughts at the end of this. My thoughts on these notes, right? There's certain things that I like and I don't like. One, I like some of the changes that they're coming out with regards to the core specializations, putting more focus on those when we're going into an expansion, because personally, as I said, I believe the foundation is really strong for every class, no matter how many specializations you bring into the game. When you have the main 5 4 specializations of each class really, really strong, because to me that creates diversity in every single build, and it also creates very, very balanced gameplay, in my opinion. You won't have an abundance of Chronomancers, for example, when you do it that way. So that's really what I like. I do like some of the changes to the duration of conditions and boon application that we have there, and some of the nerfs on classes. However, I don't like the mantra change personally. I also like the torment change, but I don't like the mantra change. And I don't like some of the thief changes that are giving thief more applications to condition damage in PvP as well as PvE. I feel like that's going to be very, very harmful, especially when you negate resistance, to not be able to cleanse some of these damaging conditions. And so that's going to make classes that I personally like to play, such as Hollowsmith or Revenant, very, very weak to a lot of condition builds. And we might start seeing that later on the road, that I feel like personally this is going to bring more of a condition meta into the game for the next 4 or 5 months, especially in PvP. But we'll see. I really feel like it was 5 people. They all created some notes and they meshed them together. So to me, these notes don't really synergize as well as I would have liked them to, meaning that every single change that is affecting something is affecting it in a big way. It's not affecting it in a small way. You know, the tertiary and secondary effects, such as the thief example that I gave. So hopefully they do some changes on that. We will have to see. I'm gonna test out this rifle real quick. I haven't seen it yet. Aside from that,